What's up guys, Duarte here with another Marvel Strike Force video, and in this video we are going to take a look at the best T4s for the Infinity Watch team, and this is going to be based on my experience on Arena, RTA, Dark Dimension, Raids and so on. So if you like the information on this video, like always, make sure to share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and make sure you smash that like button and turn on notifications for the new videos. Okay, so let's get started. Let's jump into MSF.gg and take a look at the Infinity Watch members and see which T4s are necessary and which T4s you can skip and save for upcoming teams. So let's get started with the main guy, Adam Warlock, and for him there are many T4s that you can skip. The basic is not one of them. When you do the T4, you are increasing the multiplier of the primary attack and also increasing the multiplier of the bleeds. Plus you are also applying 2 turns bleed rather than just 1 turn, so that's quite powerful. So this T4 you definitely want to do it. Now this one, the special, it's something you can skip. You are increasing the multiplier, but it's single target damage, and you are increasing the number of turns of disrupt on all enemy protectors from 1 turn to 2 turns. For most cases this is okay. There are not many tanks that have multiple turns of taunt or anything that you require for this disrupt, so this C4 is not necessary at all, and you'll be fine without it. Now we have the ultimate, and the ultimate, it increases the damage multiplier on the primary target and on the secondary target. This is on a big cooldown, and it's only 2 targets, so it's not very relevant. The damage is not relevant, so you can skip this one as well. Finally we have the passive, and the passive, it's a decent T4. You are increasing the HP from the team by 10% for everyone, and you are also giving Adam Warlock 2 deflects when this guy gets below 20%. Now it's possible to jump from 30% to 0 and he not getting any of the deflects, but I think based on the fact that you are increasing the HP of the team entirely by 10%, it's a decent T4. It's not something necessary. Your team will still do fine without this 10% HP, but it's something that eventually you want to do it in order to maximize this team. Okay, so now let's take a look at Moondragon, and Moondragon, she has some interesting T4s. One of them is not the basic. So the basic on paper sounds very interesting. You can increase the base damage of the enemy that you mind control from 20% to 40%. That sounds very good on paper. The problem is that it's very hard to get these charges that allow you to do the mind control. Plus you will only be able to, or most of the times you only have interest of doing this ability on the 2nd turn or on the 3rd turn. So based on this, the value of this T4 is not there, and many times this mind control doesn't make a huge difference, so it's not a T4 that I recommend, so you can definitely skip the basic on Moondragon. Now in terms of the special, I really like this T4, and the reason why is because we are increasing not only the damage multiplier but also the amount of speed bar that we reduce from 30% to 50%. It's not a huge increase, but it makes a huge difference, and especially if you are facing a lot of Doctor Dooms or something like this, or if you are facing some character that really needs that extra turn rewind, this is going to be extremely important, and this T4 alone can decide if you win a match or lose a match against, for example, a mirror match Infinity Watch or Infinity Watch with Adam Warlock. Okay, so moving on for the ultimate. The ultimate is a T4 that for the most part you can skip if you are not using this character, the Moondragon, on raids and on Dark Dimension. If that's the case, then you should do this T4 because you are increasing the amount of healing from 15% to 30%, and you are also increasing the damage multiplier from 340 to 400%. But once again, if you are not using this character on raids, which you should, and you should use it together with Captain America Sam Wilson, that will be released on next patch. If you are on that situation, then you should do this T4, otherwise you should skip it because the amount of turns that it takes, for example in Arena and RTA and on Alliance Wars, it takes so long to get this ultimate going that you might not even need it to use it. And finally we have the passive, and on the passive we are increasing the amount of focus and resistance for the entire team from 40% to 60%, so a 20% increase. It's a decent T4, it's something that you can get at some point if you have not good enough yellow stars or red stars, so you want to increase the survivability of your team a little bit more. But it's not a huge T4 and doesn't bring any benefit to Moondragon outside of this team, so it's something that you can skip as well. Moving on, we have Phyla-Vell, and on Phyla-Vell the basic is something that sometimes you can get to use of because you are applying offense down from 1 turn to 2 turns, but it's only on one target and it does not affect the ISO weight attack. It only goes for 1 turn as well. So once again, the basic on the primary target applies offense down from 1 turn to 2 turns and increases the multiplier just a little bit, and you only attack 2 targets with this basic. So in my opinion this is okay, but for example on mirror matches the opportunities that you have to use this ability are not that many, and it becomes quite irrelevant because if you use it turn 1 it will be clear away, and if you use it on turn 2 or 3 it's not that relevant because the characters that you want to apply offense down will probably be stunned. So in my opinion this is not a very important T4, so you can skip the basic. In terms of the special, it increases the damage from the pyramid target and adjacent targets, and not only the normal damage multiplier but also the amount of piercing damage, so that's going to be quite important. And if you follow my ISO 8 suggestion, this is going to be even better because the amount of drain that you have, of course when you are attacking multiple targets it's going to be more important because more drain, more health back. But overall this is not a T4 that you want to prioritize. You can skip this T4 as well, and only very late game, and if you have the ISO 8 tier 2 at level 5, maybe it's a T4 that you can consider, otherwise it's not really a T4 that you should consider at all. Okay, now we have the ultimate, and the ultimate increases by 150% the damage on the primary target, and this is quite good, but the best part about this T4 is that it increases the amount of turns that you give to the entire Infinity Watch team, defense up and offense up, from 1 turn to 2 turns. It doesn't change the amount of death proofs, but I think based on the defense up and offense up alone justifies the value of the T4. Now you have to remember this has a very long cooldown, so make sure you use it in a smart way, and make sure that you are not overlapping with other abilities from the other characters, and you don't waste it away. If you don't really care and if you just want to play on auto and so on, maybe this is a T4 you could skip, but I think it has decent value. You can still win matches without it. It doesn't make a huge difference because it's only a turn 2 ability. It doesn't make a huge difference, but at a really end game it's a T4 that you want to do. Moving on, we have the passive, and the passive amount increases the amount of drain that your allies and the fire level get from 25% to 50% whenever they have death proof. Now remember that if fire level dies, this ability is gone. The other characters will no longer regenerate from this drain, so keep that in mind when you are gearing up your fire level. And on top of increasing the amount of drain from 25 to 50%, you are also increasing the base damage of the entire team from 20% to 30%, which is a very good amount. And this T4, it's one of the first T4s that you should do on this team. Very important T4. Moving on, we have Gamora. And we are going to take a look at empowered Gamora, because the normal Gamora it's irrelevant, as she will go empowered turn 1 whenever she's on this team. So taking a look at her basic, it increases the amount of damage that she does with all attacks, increases the amount of multiplier, and because she applies 2 bleeds, the higher the ability is, the more damage multiplier the bleeds will also have. So of course you want to max out this ability. This will also affect the assisted counter attacks, so they will also do more damage based on the T4 on this ability. So you definitely want to do the basic for Gamora, and this is also one of the first T4s that you want to do with this team. Secondly, we have the special, and the special is more important than most people think. You are increasing the amount of damage that you do to all enemies, but the most important part is increasing the number of turns of heal block that you apply on the enemies. This on mirror matches is extremely important and might help you a lot, quite a lot, on winning these mirror matches on Arena and on RTA and on Alliance Wars. It's a very important T4. I would say not super priority early on, but you should still get it pretty early. Not the first T4s, but right after the first T4s are done. Then we take a look at Gamora's ultimate, and this T4 only increases the damage multiplier from 500% to 600%, so it's okay T4, but it's not super relevant, and the ability has a very long cooldown, and this team doesn't have anyone giving energy, so you might end up using it 1 or 2 times max throughout the match. Most of the times I only use this ability once and that's it, so it's not a T4 that I really consider. 500% is already pretty decent, and 600% maybe if you have low red stars. Otherwise I don't think it's a good T4. You can definitely skip the ultimate. And then we have the passive for Gamora, and this T4 increases the amount of crit that you have for Gamora, and it also increases the amount of piercing damage that you'll have based on the amount of Infinity Watch allies. Now, crit is okay, but it's not really important for Gamora. You can definitely skip this one based on the crit, and the amount of piercing damage is so small that it's quite irrelevant. You can do this T4 eventually at some point, very late game. It's definitely a T4 that you can skip, and it's definitely not a priority. So those are the T4s for Gamora, and finally we have the T4s for Nebula. And Nebula, she has some interesting T4s, and let's take a look if the site loads up. Okay, finally. And the first T4 on the basic, it increases the amount of damage multiplier, of course, but it also has this ability. It does 10% of the target's max health. This is very cool on situations like Dark Dimension and so on, places where, or like boss nodes where the enemies have a lot of HP. But for example, on the Doom raids, this is quite irrelevant, and you don't want Nebula to be doing the basic because she has very low cooldowns, so the amount of times where she will be doing this ability is quite irrelevant. And even if this was a good ability, the problem is that on assist and counter the amount of health steal is only 3%, so it's not super relevant. Maybe there would be some crazy situation where you could use Nebula as a striker and this would be interesting, but it's so complicated to make this work that I think it's completely unnecessary, so you should definitely skip this T4. Then we have the special, and the only thing that the special does is to increase the damage multiplier, and this is only single target and it has a 4 energy cooldown, so I think it's completely irrelevant. There is no point in doing this T4 on the special, and that's it, you can just skip this one. Okay, so after we have the ultimate, and the ultimate is quite good, and the reason why is because you increase the chance of applying heal block, and you always apply heal block to the primary target, but you go from 60% chance of chaining to 2 adjacent targets to 100% chance of doing this, and you can chain up to 10 adjacent targets. And something that it's wrong here, you can actually apply the heal block to all these 10 adjacent targets. So this is a very important T4. Like I said before, heal block is very important on mirror matches against the Infinity Watch. The more heal blocks that you apply to the enemy team, the better it will be for you, and the more you can avoid their heal blocks, the better it will be for you as well. And you are also increasing the damage multiplier by a nice amount, and you are always attacking multiple targets, so it's a win-win situation, and there is nothing wrong with this T4. I did it very early on when I got Nebula. It's not something you have to prioritize right away, but it's one of the T4s that you want to do after you are done with the priority T4s. And finally, another T4 that is definitely a priority is Nebula's passive, and this is probably one of the most important T4s on this team. This is definitely one of the T4s that you want to do early on, and it's a passive, and the only thing that it does is increasing the chance of assist from 10% to 20% by itself, plus every Infinity Watch ally. Based on this T4 alone, you can change your ISO 8 configuration and have many strikers on your team, because Nebula will always assist, and that will guarantee that you'll apply vulnerabilities, and then that the strikers will be able to do multiple attacks to the enemies, and as you saw before, they will be applying many bleeds and so on, resulting in an insane damage output. So this T4 is very important, definitely one of the first that you have to do early on in this team. So yeah guys, those were the best T4s for the Infinity Watch team. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button like a boss. And if you like the information on this video, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and I will catch you guys later.